We're back, and today is the first day in Jersey first weekend day in Jersey that it's not 95 degrees and disgusting. It's probably about 85 right now. So we're gonna do some work. 2 months ago, I didn't show you guys, swapped the engine in this thing. We didn't do it, a friend of ours did it. We'll go, this guy right here. He's a good friend of mine. He does a lot of work for me. Fortunately, I can't do everything. I'm not equipped for it, don't have the skills. But what I do have the skills to do is swap out these injectors. Now, I just want to be clear, we've done everything else on this Jeep. The exhaust is new, the clutch is good, the trans is pretty much brand new. It was the AX5. When I bought it, it was like just done. We changed the fluids and we put 1030 in it. That's one of those hacks. Transfer case is good, four-wheel drive is good, and really we're down to the nitty-gritty. So if you go to one of our earlier videos for the Cherokee, you see that we upgraded to 4-hole injectors on that. So I figured, why not get 4-hole injectors going on the old Jeep Wrangler here? And plus, everything else is new on this thing. So I got myself, hold on, I'll show you. So we got ourselves a set of, got ourselves a bunch of 4-hole injectors. I don't need to tell you what 4-hole injectors are. All right, fine, I'll tell you. That has 4 little sprayers in it, and those are only one sprayer. It's just better fuel atomization. I don't know. The injectors in this thing, they're kind of old.
It's old and cold and so very full of mold.
They came with it. I've changed everything else, the distributor, the alternator, the water pump, everything else is brand new. And the injectors are old. So we're gonna swap those out today. We're gonna get these new ones in and see how it runs. Now the great news about a job like this for somebody like me is this is relatively easy. We're not gonna need very much in the way of tools. I think we're gonna need maybe some pliers to take off some vacuum lines. Maybe I don't think we're gonna need much. I think it's a 10 mil on the fuel rail bolts. Want to check to make sure you got no pressure in the fuel rail first. And usually that can be this bleeder screw right here. Take this off. We can pop that pintle cap real quick, give a little should bleed off pressure. Oh yeah, she's got some pressure. So what we're gonna try to do is just use a rag, bleed that pressure off. Probably a billion ways to do this. Every one of them is gonna be wrong according to the comments.
Wrong, 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 wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong. You're wrong.
But we just need to get that fuel pressure out of the rail. I don't care about, like, you see how it didn't really spray out, it kind of just leaked out. That's kind of what we want. We just want that pressure gone. Once that pressure's gone, then we don't have to worry about spraying all over us. Yeah, see, now there's no pressure. Still gonna have fuel, but this is a cold motor, so I ain't worried about none of that. And these are, by the way, gloves from Home Depot. These are the HDX gloves. They are fantastic. I have to say, I was a little skeptical at first when I saw them. I said, kind of weird on gloves because I used to work in EMS, so I know all about gloves. And these are pretty tough. We'll find out. By the end of this, let's see how they hold up. That's the test. So what we're gonna wanna do is we're gonna wanna get our vacuum lines out of the way. Now the beautiful part about this is you see these, we don't have to really do anything. These are flexible, so when we go to bend this rail up, we're gonna be in good shape. But there's a couple of herrings in here we got to be careful about. So we got to take out this throttle bracket. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take this air intake assembly off and get this out of our way because it's so easy to remove. Put the camera down, get that done, get that all cleared out, and then I'll show you the meat and potatoes of this install. Now with that out of the way, you get a better look that we have to pull off the throttle bracket here. You'll see there's a fuel rail bolt here and a fuel rail bolt here. It's all 10 mil, 10 mil, 10 mil, 10 mil, 10 mil. And as you can see, we got a lot of room to play. Get this all out of the way, vacuum hoses and whatnot. We can maybe even start unplugging our injectors in the meantime. And you see how these kind of lay. It's all done by memory. By memory, I mean the way that these wires will sit are the same way they'll sit if you move them out of the way and you put them back. They'll still come back to the same position. So don't worry about mixing them up. Most times it's just however they go is pretty much how they're gonna plug in. But we'll just unplug those real quick and get ready. Let's see. double check your connect. So I don't remember, and I'll correct myself in the description. This is either called an EV6 or an EV1 connector. Can't remember which one it is, but that is the difference on a lot of these injectors, is EV6 versus EV1. And whatever the number is, I can tell you that these match, and that's all we care about. I've also noticed, and I'm gonna have to look this up, but these injectors being this color tell me that they are 24-pound injectors. As a former guy who used to love Mustangs, I had a couple of them, and I do remember those being 24-pounders, which for this motor is way overkill. And it could have a lot to do with some of my drivability issues. Sometimes it runs like a fat pig. Rich as heck. I thought a new engine might help that, you know, brand new engine, but it still kind of runs kind of fat, and that could be reason why. We're gonna look those up, and I'll tell you what, we'll put that up here too, what they really were. Were they? Am I wrong? Whatever the answer is now, you know. I won't know till the video's over and done with and editing. And hi, Mrs. Editor. But anyway, let's get into doing this. 10mm socket, and just like any true toolbox, obviously I'm missing both 10mm sockets from it, so I had to go into my other toolbox to pull out a 10mm. I don't know where they all go, but there's gonna be one day somebody's gonna be digging in a yard or somewhere, and they're gonna find a gathering of 10mm sockets that have all escaped their owners. But that's all we need to do this job. 10mm, we're gonna pry everything out of the way. Let's get started. Now, as I said before, this is kind of easy. It's gonna be just this one, which is right here. Yeah, those are the two for the throttle brackets, and then two on the fuel rails, here and here. I could show you me unbolting those and whatnot in a time lapse, but it'd be kind of boring. Oh, and you know, make it easier, disconnect your throttle cable right here at the throttle bracket. That just pries right off. I'm gonna pull this all apart, and I don't have my tripod, so I'm gonna cut to it all being apart. In the meantime, while you're here, why don't you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's get this thing going. Come on. And as I was saying before, it's easy. Just disconnect this, and then your two 10mm bolts here, and then there's one on your rail that actually holds your throttle bracket in place, right there. And then this one comes loose, and then this rail is going to pull off. So I'm going to get those off, and we'll come right back. All right, so fantastic. We got our 10mm nuts off, but now we got to step it up to a 13. So I was wrong. There's one more, because these are actually a 13, and you got to undo these from the rail, these are studs that mount into the intake and hold the rail to the intake. So that's next. Moving on, and boom, they look like this. Now that you got it out, here's where your choice can be. Decision time. You can either choose to pull the rail out as one whole piece and get all the injectors, or you can take each one of these clips off, and that might leave the injector behind, but I think it's easier just to get on them as one whole piece, start wiggling, start pulling. They will come out. Now, they've been in there a while, so it's going to take a minute. It's going to take a little bit of love. I like to put these out of the way. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Just slowly. I think we need a little bit of help. That required a little bit more force than I wanted to put on it, but I'll show you why I'm glad I did this. I don't know if you can see, but those O-rings, kind of 2, 3 of them left behind, stayed in. This one came out, but this one was all torn up. Actually, this one isn't even there, so I don't even know what was sealing. Holy cow. So I'm gonna have to get a pick, get in here and get all these old O-rings out. We're gonna clean up these a little bit with some brake clean. Then we're gonna pop these clips off and pull these injectors out. We'll get a better look at them once I get them all out. But I mean, it just required a lot of to get it out. So don't be afraid to pull on them. They're not gonna break. Your fuel rail is pretty tough. I actually, you know what? Ooh, if I can get these fuel lines off, maybe I'll clean and paint this fuel rail too. That'd be nice. Ta-da! Yeah, I just disconnected the fuel lines. They're really easy on these. They're just 2 clips. Obviously, the washer stayed on one and stayed in for the other one. So we'll take a look at that. But Yeah, get all the gas out. What we'll do, empty the rail. Empty the rail. I have a catch basin below my foot. You just can't see it on camera, right? That's yep. You believe that? Recycle properly. Probably. Recycle probably.
Be a planeteer. Recycle.
That's a lot of gas. Come on. My catch can's almost full. Oh, there we go. Catch can filled up. Oh, this can of semi-gloss from our last video. I wonder if we've got enough to do a fuel rail. If any of you are still using gas as your mode of implementation for anything, weed whackers, blowers, anything, I'm not an EV advocate. I hate electric, but I will tell you, not having to start that thing and just putting a battery in is a fantastic thing. I'm going to tell you, the 40-volt Ryobis that I have, they have more than enough power to do all of this and then still have some left over for the blower. Just saying. Side note. Okay, so first things first, we're going to pop all these clips off to get these injectors out. Save the clips, make sure little flathead screwdriver right in the back here, little twist action. I'll show you how that all works. All right, so I had faith in our can from last time that this magic can just seemed to continue spraying. That was our previous video. Go back and check it out. I brought this one out. Interior, exterior, rust stop, protective enamel, black satin. Okay, maybe not the type I want, but hey, rust stop. That's pretty rusty, I guess. But we are going to be smart, and we're going to tape up the ends, and I think we're going to leave the injectors in, spray it down first, because those injectors are coming out. We don't care. We can get paint on them all we want. So I'm going to tape this all up. Let's get it masked, get it ready to be rebuilt. That's about as masked as it's going to get. You know what? I lied. I'm going to take that off, mask that too, and then and with all the machine work done, it's time to rebuild it. Oh, I took our clips off, by the way, real quick. We're going to put those on the wire wheel and get those nice and shiny. Maybe not too close to the 300. I think the boy would be pretty pissed off. I don't want to piss him off. He's working nights lately. I'm working nights. And the good part is we can do that, and now nothing is touching. We can paint both sides. Ooh. One more time. Flip it over. Let's get that back sided. Oh, our clips got in the way. I guess they're going to be black too. Your coats, you know, the whole whatever. All right, we're gonna let that sit because I don't like tacky paint. I hate touching tacky paint. It drives me crazy. So we're gonna let that sit. We're gonna let it dry. Do whatever it's got to do for a good amount of time. All right, so first things first. We got gnats all around us. Oh my goodness. So first things first, we got to fish out all those old O-rings that are in there. So we got this one here, and we'll put these aside. I don't know if I lose them, I don't care. This one is completely disintegrated if there's even anything in there. Now I'm just pulling out sludge. You know, that's terrible.
That's terrible.
And we got this one back here. Are we able to get yourself a pick? And my pick may be too aggressive for this. Hold on. Oh wow, yeah, that one's tight in there. Wow, these are terrible. And then one more. Bada bing, got him out. So it looks good. Let's get in there and take a look. Ugh. Ugh. Oh God, they're nasty. God, it's terrible. Oh, my flashlight's dying. Ah, darn it. Well, at least we got the gasket. Now it's time to switch to my good old friend, Mr. B12 Chem Tool from Berryman. Berryman. Don't be afraid to get in there either. Anything left behind will just affect you when you go to drive it again. Shop rags. Have shop rags on hand. It's so much easier. Why don't I? I had one, but it was to keep my fender protected because that's what a fender protector does. Why would I have that? I have one. It's just buried in the shop. I mean, this is the way things go. ADD brain, guys. It's terrible. So don't be afraid to get in there. Get them bores cleaned out. Doesn't need to be perfect, but should be a lot better than it was. Ours was nasty. So get in there with your rag. I know guys that put things on a drill bit. Get in there with the drill bit. What you want is you're going to want that pintle cap to sit nice and flush to that. So we might get in there with a little something to really clean those out. ADD brain strikes again, people. I bought a pack of these brushes a couple weeks ago for unknown reason. I was walking out and I'm like, oh, those are cool because they have this little tip, little so we can get in there, scrub it, bubba. And then we can give them one more spritz out with the old Berryman. And they are looking good. I don't know, hopefully you can see them. I don't know if you can, but nice and shiny. That's what we want. Want them nice and shiny. Now, a brief word on injectors real quick. I'm gonna go back to it. A little learning time.
Captain's got to teach stuff.
Usually in a job like this, you change the O-rings out for some new ones. These are in pretty good shape, so we're gonna let them fly. Unless I didn't buy new ones, and they're like 20 bucks for a set, so I'm not buying them. This is called the pintle cap, this end right here. And this pintle cap is what actually sits up against that smooth area you saw there, the shiny area. And that kind of adds a little bit of sealing in between here and compression, because don't forget these go directly into the intake track. This is not direct injected into the cylinder, they direct inject into the intake track. But you can get a vacuum leak from an injector on this side. So these pintle caps will help out, and they'll keep that nuzzled right up against. They'll keep debris and stuff from settling in that area. Those pintle caps are in no good shape. These are pretty good. Again, these are used injectors. I bought these off eBay. I think I paid 50 bucks for the set of 4, but these are 19 pounders and they are 4-hole. Might idle better, might not, I don't know, might do something. So we're hoping for a little bit, I wouldn't say less performance, we're hoping for a more dialed motor. All right, so after a brief soda break, we think we're dry now. Let's go check that fuel rail, see if we can't start putting this thing back together. Oh, you know what would help? Having the damn injectors. All right, so we're wearing gloves and our fuel rail seems like it's dry. So let's get these injectors out. Now this is also gonna be just as hard as it was before. So I'm gonna have to, ooh, I got an idea. Let's set you up. Let's set you up right here. All right, so these should probably come out without an issue, but I can tell you that they're gonna be hard. Wow, these are tight in there. Don't be afraid to get a little aggressive with them. They will come out. Just these have been in there since the beginning of time, and as you can see, I'm starting to get some separation here. So I'm just have to keep working it. And eventually you get your injector out, but of course we left our O-ring behind. And those cups are rusty. Look at that. That's not good. We have to clean those out too. Oh no. We see gasoline coming out. The gasoline is starting to tackify the paint again. Oh man, this is a mess. Good thing we're wearing gloves. But keep working those injectors and they'll all eventually come out. Oh my gosh. Here. My 10 one wasn't that bad. Here we go, we got those out. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And these were a little rough, these two back ones. Wow. I'm gonna go grab a rag. You stay right here. Yeah, so these bottom cups, they're nasty and rusty. And they shouldn't be rusty because it's got fuel in it. So we're gonna take extra special care. Clean them up. Get them nice and pretty. Now, there's a couple different lubes you can use to insert your new ones. I'm gonna tell you, you're supposed to use something like petroleum jelly, and I'm talking like Vaseline. And I had some, but I don't know where it is. And it's inside, and I don't feel like going inside to get it. I'm sorry. I'm gonna be lazy on this one. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna use old standby number 2. Now the rail sits like this against the motor, so these go in like this, and we are going to want to get that in so it's nice and neat. Like I said, I don't want to use I just don't want to go anywhere. Let's stay right here. So what we're gonna do, use a little garage door lube. You're like, garage door lube, what the heck? It's a lubricant, it doesn't matter. We just got to get these into the rails and get the right direction going. We can always twist them when we get them inside, but the hard part's going to be getting them into the cups. You saw what it was to take them out. You can imagine what it's like to put them in. Make sure you try not to chum up your gasket either, because that could happen. So I'm going to keep working on this, and you guys are going to have to just trust me on this one. And there we go. And thank goodness I did that off camera, because it's not easy to get these on, and there was a lot of expletives, and this is not a family friendly channel, but we are trying not to work blue here. So another important thing to note that you're all gonna kind of freak out about, but it's okay, trust me. If you look at your stock injector, your first off, your injector links are the same. But if you look at your stock injector, you see it's got these 2 lands on it, and that is for this clip to click on. These injectors, they don't have those lands. They use the pressure of the rail to hold them in. So that's it. The rail is what's going to hold these on, and the pressure between these bolts on the rail is what's going to keep the injectors mounted where they belong. It's not ideal, but it's what we're stuck with. Let's get this thing mounted back on and see what it does. And a real quick note, just because I didn't show you over there, or I didn't show you how I install these. When you're putting them in, because I didn't have extra O-rings, you have to make sure you insert the entire O-ring. If you have to stick your thumb in there, your nail in there, and just push the O-ring in a little bit, you don't want it getting pinched in between the cup and the injector, because it will tear. And then you'll have a leak, and then you'll be like, Adam, it didn't work out like you said it would. So let's not do that. I'm going to put this rail back on, start tightening these bolts down, and let's come back and see what it looks like when we get it pushed in. Now, real quick, before I do that, I'm just going to line up these injectors, and I'm going to push this rail in, and the bolt pressure of these 2 bolts should pull this rail flush. But I'm gonna give it a lot of oomph to make sure that these suck in where they're supposed to be. I might even lube those holes up a little bit like I just did using garage door lube. Hey, it's what I got. But those have more of a concave cup to them, whereas these don't. These are tighter. It's not as tight into the intake track, so we should be all right there. Let's see what we got. And there we go. I used the pressure of the bolts, and I kept doing this with the injectors to turn them as I was sucking them into the intake track to make sure that they sat nice and loose, but nice and tight. Like they're pushed forward. They all turn left and right. They all have some amount of movement, so they're both, they're all kind of in the rail and in the block at the same time. They shouldn't leak, but we're going to be looking for leaks. What we're going to do is we'll pressurize the fuel rail, and then we'll look for the injectors to just leak by themselves without anything going. So what we're gonna do is we'll just reconnect our fuel lines, which, as you could see before, these were kind of easy. You just get this on here like that. Gotta line that bad Larry up and just push it on. Of course, I say it, and it's not as easy to do in practice when I'm trying to tell you versus what it looks like when we do it. So I'm gonna put the camera down again so I can get this on so I don't look stupid. All right, now that we're all hooked up, fuel lines are back on. It took a little off-camera magic to get them to seat, but as soon as we got those on, we know we're good. Injectors all look like they're in place. So let's take this cap off. We'll do a little pressurizing of the fuel rail. See what we got. What we'll do is we'll cycle the key a few times. And that should get our fuel pump going. And then let's get our fuel rail bled. There's a pressure of air out. Now let's see. Am I noticing any leaks? I'm not seeing anything so far. Okay, well, we could be good. What I'm gonna say we do is I'm gonna say we start it up just like this. Now we might have a couple of vacuum leaks. Let me make sure that we at least have our reference for R. Now, some people say this is a fuel pressure regulator. Some people say that this is a anti-pulsing valve. I don't know what it is, but we're gonna put the vacuum line back on it because it needs to be there. We're not leaking at our fuel rails, and we don't have our throttle hooked up, but that's okay. So let's fire it up and see if we got any leaks. All right, so the last hour I did not record because we had all kinds of problems, but I'll bring you up to speed. This clip for this fuel line was jacked. I took it apart, and apparently one of the O-rings maybe wasn't in here or went bonsai. When the motor swap happened, I know that there was a problem with this fuel line and it was all chummy. So it leaked like a sieve as soon as we started it, and it was pretty bad. And I had to stop it, and immediately, yeah, it was bad. Like, even the wife came out and she was like, "Are you okay?" Because the throttle bracket got caught up in the fan, and well, it made a lot of noise, and everybody's like, "Oh, Dad lose his fingers." No, he didn't lose his fingers. So back to the fuel line. What we had to do is we had to run over to AutoZone. I hate AutoZone. I used to work there. That place is just, it's gone way downhill. One guy working the entire store, 20 people. It's ridiculous. But they have fuel line repair kits there, and that right there, that is a 5/16 fuel line, and it's GM. They donated so much stuff to the Jeeps. You want to see something? GM in a Jeep Wrangler. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a GM steering column. So yeah, there's a lot of GM parts. But anyway, we took the inners out of this because cutting, more learning time. This is like some crazy 90-degree angle, and then it goes right into metal. And rather than replace that whole darn fuel line, we gutted this one, and we put all the pieces here that we gutted. So once we got that all buttoned up and fixed, that was a tragedy, but the O-rings worked. Check this out. No leaks, and it runs good. I revved it a couple times off camera. So let's button this back up. Bunch of 10 mil, well, you don't have the 13 anymore. We got those in. Bunch of 10 mil, put them brackets on, put the air intake back. All right, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna start it up. We're gonna let it go through a little bit of a heat cycle. And we're gonna keep our eye out for some fuel leaks, because the last thing you want is a fuel leak that you don't know about driving down the road. Fuel leaking everywhere. Not a good sign. And maybe it's just snake oil, or I don't know, but I think it's idling smoother than it ever has, which tells me that this might have been a spot-on adjustment. Now, some people tell you, let's get away from that noise, but some people tell you they should reset your computer, pull your cables off and attach them, you let it sit, and then you tap the power to ground with the ground disconnected, and that kind of kills the power to the ECU, and it resets, and then it works great. I'm not gonna do any of that because I think it works just fine without having to go through that trouble. It's running great right now. We're gonna take it for a drive. It's gonna relearn. It's not a, this isn't an OBD 2 or even 1 for this matter. This is a early ECU Chrysler, you know, basically a calculator. You know, it's a little smart calculator. They're not very good when it comes to electronics. They have a couple tables in them to tell them when to fire things and how to change the ignition curve a little bit, but they ain't learning about nothing. Very, very, very cut and dry computer. So we'll let it do its thing. We'll let it learn and take it for a drive. And here we are. This is driving great. Everything is working as it should. The only thing I noticed is the idle's a little higher, so we might have to reset our idle just a little bit, but that's a common problem. I'm not worried about that at all. I'll reset idle all day long. This thing is purring like a kitten. Yeah, comes down to about 1,000 RPM. That might be part of that whole relearn thing you all are talking about, but smooth as silk. All right, I'm gonna stop filming while I drive. And that's it. Everything's done. Ran great, drove it around, purring like a kitten. I found a vacuum leak. That was why we had a higher idle. Yeah, it's running good. I'm gonna take it out for one more drive, but you ain't coming along for that. So real quick, if you like this video, like, share, subscribe, give me some comments, tell me what you would do. Found out that 24-pound injectors that I thought they are, they could be 24-pounders, but they're probably not. Turns out that Jeep Wranglers, the 4-cylinder, the 2.5 liter, had a red top injector. Doesn't mean they're 25, 24-pound, 30-pound. They could be, but you never know. So we know that this is 19-pound injectors are perfect for this motor. It is running a lot smoother. Again, I'm going to take it out for one more drive without a vacuum leak, and then I'm going to close it out, go have a steak and some beers. So you do the same, and we'll see you in the next one. And I just had to come back one more time to tell you that I just took this for a drive with the vacuum leak fixed, and everything's kind of learning and doing what it's supposed to. This thing accelerates like a Honda. Like, it's a very smooth acceleration, and I am impressed. Now, again, it's a brand new engine, Titan engines. This is a balanced assembly, and I tell you what, I couldn't even tell when to shift because it was so smooth. It was like a dream, and then a shift. So if you have a 4-cylinder Jeep, or even if you have a 6-cylinder Jeep, this is a big upgrade. As you can see in our Cherokee video a few however back, that made a huge difference on the boys Cherokee. So there's no reason why you shouldn't do that on every vehicle that, you know, Jeep put out. If it's running them stock single hole injectors, get rid of them, toss them, get some new ones.